Fabricio Werdum versus Alexander Gustafsson just took place in the People's Co-Main event of UFC Fight Night 174 on Fight Island 3, Whittaker versus Till, and it was a decent fight while it lasted. It wasn't the most action-packed, but Gustafsson was looking pretty good on the feet. As I said before, this was definitely the People's Co-Main event of the card, even though it was the feature fight underneath Shogun versus Nogueira 3, the trilogy that literally not a single person on earth asked for whatsoever. This was the more anticipated fight other than Whittaker versus Till, in my opinion. That's why it was the People's Co-Main event. Everyone was interested to see how Gustafsson would do moving up into that heavyweight division, especially after Werdum got beaten up by Alexei Oleinik, even though he won that third round. In those first two rounds on the feet with Oleinik was beating up Fabricio Werdum, and I thought that we would be in for the same thing against Alexander Gustafsson. I thought the same thing was going to happen, but just way better. I thought Gustafsson was a way more elite striker than Alexei Oleinik. I thought he had better takedown defense than Alexei Oleinik as well. Gustafsson came up to the heavyweight division. He looked in shape as well. He was a little bit portly, a little bit chubby. I wish to God these light heavyweights would just show up in light heavyweight shape and just not cut the water weight, because I think they would dance rings around these heavyweights. But Gustafsson decided to enjoy himself a little bit, packed on a couple 10 pounds. Could really help him in the grappling exchanges, to be honest, just to be a little bit heavier and on Werdum's level. I didn't realise how big Werdum was. I thought Werdum was going to be a little bit smaller than I expected, but he was a big guy in there, very strong in the clinch and the grappling. Gustafsson stuffed the takedowns well, but just wasn't urgent enough in the scrambles. And the fight started. Werdum, by the way, submitted Gustafsson in the first round via an armbar. If you didn't know the result and you've been waiting for me to say it this entire time, I thought that Gustafsson was going to go out there and win the fight by decision. I thought he was just going to completely jab away, front kick away at Fabricio Werdum for 3 rounds. I didn't think he was going to get a TKO over Werdum, because Gustafsson seems to be okay to just sort of sit on the outside and pick guys apart. I thought that's what he was going to do. He looked as though he was on his way to doing that. He was landing some good shots. That not traditional, but that vintage Gustafsson jab to the body, jab to the head combo landed a couple times in that fight early, but then as soon as Fabricio Werdum ended up in the grappling world, Gustafsson just wasn't urgent enough. Like, he stuffed the takedown early. He had the takedown defense necessary to stop Fabricio Werdum's game, but he just lingered. He lingered when he should have been exploding and rapidly trying to get back to his feet, and it's a problem that he had in the Anthony Smith fight as well. The second he got taken down against Anthony Smith, there wasn't like this big emergency kick up like a lot of people who get taken down that want to strike have. There wasn't this urgency of, oh my god, I'm the striker on my back, I need to immediately get back to my feet and buck and weave and try and get out from this takedown. There wasn't that urgency. He stuffed the takedown well against Werdum. In fact, ended up on top of Werdum and landing some good little shots on top. But when you get that space and you've got him in on your single, you've got to break from that situation. I feel like Gustafsson engaged a little bit too much because he ended up in a good position after Werdum's failed takedown. What he should have done is just completely disengaged whatsoever. Gastelum did the same thing with Jack Hermansson. I picked Hermansson to win that fight by first round submission, but I thought I thought Gastelum should have definitely just been more urgent to escape the ground, rather than, because he's winning the ground, act like he's safe there. He should escape that situation, and that's what Gustafsson didn't do in this Werdum fight. He had a good position on Werdum. He was on top of Werdum, landing some decent hammer fists that looked somewhat damaging. He should have just escaped that position, but he chose to be in that position with Werdum. And when you're in that position with Werdum, he's going to get you. It started with a back take as Gustafsson was trying to get back to his feet. Werdum got his back, dragged him to the floor. Gustafsson did a pretty sick little hip escape to get one of the hooks out of Fabricio Werdum. But once Fabricio Werdum has your back, it is near impossible to get out of that situation. I mean, if I had to list one specific position you don't want to be in with Fabricio Werdum, it would be him having your back, because he can not only just choke you out with a rear naked choke from there, but he will turn it into other submissions as well, and he turned it into an armbar. And to be fair to Gustafsson, he was defending well at first. I'm so heartbroken by this. I wanted to see Gustafsson make a run at heavyweight, but we'll talk about it afterwards. He had his arm. Werdum was yanking on the arm of Alexander Gustafsson. Gustafsson was doing the right thing, linking his hands together, getting a good grip, making sure that Werdum couldn't extend on the arm. But what Gustafsson needed to do again was be a little bit more switched on and urgent. I feel like he needs a little bit of a slap in the face in the middle of these rounds at times, because he seems to switch off, get a little bit too comfortable, and forget that he's in a dangerous fight with a dangerous man. He was in a position with Werdum where, in my opinion, if you let go of that arm, you better be ready to immediately buck and weave and try and get out of that situation, because in the time that you've let go of your arm, you've got a tiny window to try and escape from the situation. Let go of the arm. Let Werdum try and yank it a bit in that moment. Try and do whatever you can as he's pulling on it to yank it out of there. Escape, roll over, get on top, get mounted against Werdum. That would be a better situation. Step over Werdum and try and manipulate the arm in a better way for yourself. But it just seemed as though as soon as Gustafsson let go of his arm, instead of his arm, and here's what annoyed me about the finish a little bit. I love Gustafsson, but this kind of annoyed me. I feel like Gustafsson, when he's on top and when he's doing well, he's very, very good. But when you give him a moment of adversity, on the ground, especially in the grappling, when you give him adversity in the grappling, he kind of gives up a little bit. Because I know what I saw there. Gustafsson was holding his hand back, holding his arm back from being yanked on by Werdum. And instead of going for maybe pushing the leg of Werdum off of his face and trying to get out of the position, or maybe his hand goes down to his side to try and posture up and try something, his hand went straight from this to tapping position. It's just unlucky, man. I wish that Gustafsson would have got it done. We needed some new life in the heavyweight division, but you know what? Fabricio Werdum retired, it sounds like. I don't think he retired. I think we're going to be seeing Fabricio Werdum in another promotion real soon, earning big bucks for himself. And good for Fabricio Werdum. Been around for a long time. Yes, he was on steroids. Yes, he had a lot of controversies in his career, and he's had some bad losses, but he ended on a win. A big win on a big stage on Fight Island against Alexander Gustafsson. Called it quits. For now, from what it seems, good for Fabricio Werdum. I just really wanted Alexander Gustafsson to win, because I think if Gustafsson won, we'd be talking about Gus versus the Derek Lewis versus Thingy winner, whoever the fuck he's fighting next, Alexei Oleinik even, there you go. The Gus versus Alexei Oleinik, Derek Lewis winner, Gus versus someone else. I think they would have slid Gus right into the top 10. But now he's lost. But he didn't lose by taking damage. He just tapped immediately as his arm was put in any kind of danger. So even his arm didn't take much damage either. He didn't even get his arm yanked on for too long. He just immediately tapped as soon as the arm bar was in without any resistance. It doesn't seem like he's doing a good job at being the nail. When Gustafsson's the hammer in the grappling or the striking, he always seems to be the hammer in the striking. But in the grappling especially, we saw this with Smith as well. As soon as he ends up in a bad position, we saw this with John Jones. When Gus ends up in a bad position on the ground with someone, and they keep him there for longer than 5 seconds. Against DC couldn't really keep Gus there. So Gus kind of escaped that situation. But when you can keep Gus on the ground for a little bit, he seems to kind of let you do your thing. We saw it with Jones, Gus too. We saw it with Smith versus Gustafsson. And we saw it with Gustafsson versus Werdum. I didn't expect Werdum to get it done by submission. I put a little bit of money on Werdum by submission. Don't get me wrong. Made a bit of money there. That was kind of nice, but, you know, I had Gustafsson in another parlay, so I kind of just didn't lose as much money as I originally would have by putting money on Werdum, which I'm okay with. You know, at least I'm not bankrupt from it. But yeah, we'll see what happens next. I don't think that Gustafsson's going to retire. He might do, but he didn't take any damage. In fact, I could see Gustafsson versus Blagoy Ivanov, who's a guy coming off a close loss to Augusto Sakai not too long ago, looking to get back in there. I could see Alexander Gustafsson versus Blagoy Ivanov in October, November. Comeback fight. If Gustafsson wins, he's right outside the top 10 of heavyweight. If Blagoy Ivanov wins, he's right back in the mix after a big win against a big name. I would not retire if I was Gustafsson, because I know how the heavyweight division works. One win, Gustafsson, and you're being talked about as a journey towards the title shot. If you go out there and beat Blagoy Ivanov, who might not even be ranked at this moment, but I think he's barely in the top 15. If you go out there and beat Blagoy, or you go out there and beat another top heavyweight coming off a loss, you're right back in the mix. If they made Gustafsson versus Walt Harris next, first of all, I'd be 100% down for that fight. And if Gus wins, he's right back in the mix. Gustafsson's in a lucky situation where he's a huge name, so he can use that name to bring life into the heavyweight division. We'll see what he chooses to do. I'd be upset if he retired, because I kind of want to see him go out on a bit more of a hoorah and a little bit more of a winning streak and have a little bit more of a good performance, because there's nothing quite as humiliating as a first round submission. But we'll see what happens. If he retires, I won't be mad at him, but I kind of will be mad at him a little bit. I kind of wanted to see, I want to see Gus go back in there, probably get a win against some of these other top heavyweights, because Werdum's tricky if you end up in that position with him. But if Gus avoids that position against these other guys and just keeps it standing, he's going to have a real fun time, especially if he's standing with Blagojevanov. I think he'll have a really fun time. And against Walt Harris, that's a close fight as well. We'll see what happens. Hopefully he doesn't retire. He could do. And for Werdum, see you at Bellator. Probably fighting Ryan Bader within a year. I wouldn't be surprised. I know he said he's retiring, but I don't see that shit happening. I know he's not re-signing with the UFC, but he's definitely not retiring. There's going to be some exhibit. I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw Werdum versus Fedor in some weird exhibition fight that no one really knows about, but they're both getting paid like $10 million to do it on some cruise ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I wouldn't be surprised if Werdum suddenly signed a fight with Fedor, the fight that we were meant to see. I mean, it's already happened, but like, do a rematch. It'll be fun. Good stuff. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Decent, but, you know, just a little bit. It really crushed my heart. It really did sour my mood for the rest of the night, seeing Gustafsson tap in that first round. But that's okay. We can't have nice things in the UFC. That's all it is. We just can't have nice things. I wouldn't be surprised if Marlon Vera just jump in triangles O'Malley next, and then just fuck it up for everyone. But I'm not mad. I'm happy for Werdum. Like and subscribe. Click that button there. Goodbye.